Greetings, Death Lord. It's your boy, Mr. Onyxus here, bringing you
another one
in a series of videos you'll need to become the very best that no one ever was. This is going to be a long one, so feel free to check out the description below for timestamps while you're down there hitting that like and subscribe button. Right? This is a snapshot of the Archon recommended talent distribution for lower to higher end keys. Aside from the general stat buffs and defensive capability this grants you, this arrangement is going to provide us with a couple of things. A runic power generating interrupt on a 12-second rotation, blinding sleet which disorients and slows in a frontal cone, a 3-minute anti-magic zone which is a large AoE magic absorption dome for the homies, 2 charges of Death's Advance, Decay, and Grip, a Death and Decay that slows enemies, a 5-second stun via Asphyxiate, an instant heal for 50% of your maximum health, though with a 30% heal absorption payback. Some options in this build may include taking Death's Reach over Asphyxiate if you're anticipating needing extra long pull grips. There are roughly 3 flexible points here in Death Pack, Death's Defiance, and Assimilation, which might be shuffled for additional defensive power of Permafrost, Unholy Endurance / Blood Draw, or Death Notes to reduce the cost of your Raised Dead, which is sometimes handy for a reliable quick res on the tank, or Wraithwalk. For our hero talents, we have Death's Charge, which gives us the ability to break free from movement impairing effects, a Feast of Souls to juice our Death Coil and Epidemic casts, and 1 choice node of Pact of the Apocalypse or Horseman's Aid. While the random anti-magic shells of Horseman's Aid are fun play, I find a lot more value personally in the flat damage reduction gained from Pact of the Apocalypse. Now, onto the class tree. This is pretty much it. Some people may opt to take Coil of Devastation over Ghoulish Frenzy for increased priority damage, though Ghoulish Frenzy wins out over most content overall and is pretty consistently seen in higher level keys. Alright, I'm going to be honest with you. If you watch and or read 3 different Unholy Mythic Plus guides, you're going to get 3 different explanations on how to prioritize and play the spec. Now that we're a bit deeper into season, I'm basing these priorities on the data provided by the nerds over at Acarus, who run large robot simulations which test various theories of play, as well as what practices have consistently held me at the top of the damage meters during my Mythic Plus adventures. If you disagree or you want to deviate from this, it's your $15, brother. Many core principles of Unholy gameplay carry across into our Mythic Plus priorities, the most significant change being our Cycle of Death ability, giving us significantly more Putrefys to play with in a given AoE pull. For our first pull, which is usually a large one, we begin by casting Outbreak when safe to do so during our gather. And you might say, but doesn't Putrefy apply all of our diseases already? Well, yes. With the talent Blightburst, it does, but you've got a couple of globals before you're going to be pressing Putrefy, and our Blightburst ability relies on there already being diseases on the target for the Putrefy to burst that extra damage. Outbreak is also going to apply Dread Plague, which is required for you to proc free Putrefys as well as to accumulate Sudden Doom charges. Now you'll cast Festering Strike, Festering Scythe. This will make our diseases tick faster, which increases the frequency that Dread Plague will proc either Sudden Doom or Putrefy. Once gathered, we potion, trinket, and army, and press Dark Transformation about 1 global afterward. This gives our army a moment to spawn and ensures your commander buff will fully envelop your army's lifespan. The talent Reaping has now given us a Soul Reaper charge, so we pop that bad boy, which will instantly consume 2 Putrefys. That's going to give us 2 mages and some pretty substantial buffs to our young Timmy. Now we press Graveyard for 6 or more targets, or Necrotic Coil for 5 or fewer targets, or if priority damage is desired. This opener cranks up our runic power, but it's very taxing on our runes. So this global prevents you from overcapping on RP in Forbidden Knowledge, but also ensures that you have the runes needed to press the following buttons in quick succession. We then use the next 2 globals to place down Death and Decay. Both of these Death and Decays will independently cause Putrefy cooldown reduction for every enemy ticked up to 10 enemies per D&D. This is going to cause significant Putrefy cooldown reduction based on the size of the pull. Now we send the 3rd charge of Putrefy that we started with, and we become Monkey D. Luffy. Putrefy Canon! You'll now see that Putrefys are rapidly reloading. You'll dance between spamming Graveyard and pressing Putrefys as they become available. You should not intentionally wait for 2 stacks, though sometimes it'll happen like that. And if you can't do either, fill with Scourge Strike. You can easily get 8 or more Putrefys off in this window, which is some significant firepower. Watch your Festering Scythe and refresh it as close to 0 seconds remaining as possible. Failure to do this may cost you free Putrefy casts from Dreadplague ticks, and that is going to add up over the course of the dungeon. Continue spending every Putrefy you can while Dark Transformation is active, regardless of how long remains in Dark Transformation. Also, you are prioritizing runic power in this window. Spend all available runic power until Forbidden Knowledge runs out. If 3 or more mobs are alive once D&D comes off of cooldown and you've still got some time in Dark Transformation, go ahead and throw down that D&D. I've definitely squeezed out additional Putrefys this way, which is very valuable during Forbidden Knowledge. Do this on a training dummy a few times for mastery. Whew. So now that we're spent, no Putrefys, no runic power, no Dark Transformation, we enter the in-between. As a general rule, while outside of Forbidden Knowledge, your priorities of runes versus runic power inverse. In this phase, you generally only press Death Coil and or Epidemic if you have a sudden Doom proc. Because we're in a resource-rich environment in this current era of Unholy Death Knight, there is minimal, if any, loss due to overcapping on runic power outside of Forbidden Knowledge. Additionally, this forces more Scourge Strikes, which will give you more Putrefy cooldown reduction and give you a greater chance of summoning a Horseman for extra damage. A quick note here, Sudden Doom will still have you spending runic power quite a bit. It's not like you're not pressing those buttons at all. In fact, if you've got a high target count, a Naked Epidemic can net you more immediate damage, but will reduce your numeric long-term overall. Though I promise you that the key won't brick because you accidentally sent a Naked Epidemic. We're unlearning expansions of habits, and that's okay. For your maximum overall damage, you do not press Putrefy outside of Dark Transformation. But Oni, I saw the rank 1 Unholy Death Knight pressing Putrefy outside of Dark Transformation frequently. You're crazy! Yes, I've seen the logs. I hear you. What you need to understand is that he is choosing to increase his in-the-moment throughput at the expense of some Putrefys during his burst window. He has a good understanding of his route and can consciously decide where he needs those Putrefys the most. If I can do a little less damage in a safer pull where I know my team is covering, it might be worth channeling a little more damage into this very dangerous in-between period that I'm in right now. Feel free to experiment. Understand that Putrefys during the in-between will give you more damage during that in-between period of time. But this comes at the cost of the value of those Putrefys during your burst window. If you've seen my video on why we use Putrefy during Dark Transformation, linked below, you'll understand that those Putrefys scale in value during Dark Transformation. So generally speaking, I recommend saving your Putrefys for your Dark Transformation window so you can get their full value. Do not use Death and Decay during this in-between time unless you have 3 or more targets and you anticipate having fewer than 3 targets during your next pull. Now we enter the middle Dark Transformation window. You'll continue abiding by the runes over runic power priority through this window. You do not intentionally elongate this Dark Transformation. This Dark Transformation is a snack, not a meal. And if you're spamming your flimsy non-sudden doom death coils here, you'll miss out on Putrefy cooldown reduction in this Dark Transformation that you could have used to actually do damage. Now press Soul Reaper to spend your available charges of Putrefy. If 3 or more targets, drop your double D&D and press Putrefy anytime that bad boy lights up. Again, do not wait for 2 stacks, as this will cost you buff overlap time in this finite window. As a decision point, what if Dark Transformation comes up and the mobs are at 10% health? Shouldn't I hold Dark Transformation? Well, my friend, generally, no. Keep in mind that you do not press Army without Dark Transformation. Therefore, every second you hold this middle Dark Transformation is a second-by-second delay to your next Army window. You can consciously delay Dark Transformation for a few seconds if you choose to, but you need to do this very consciously, knowing that over the course of the dungeon, this may cost you Army casts, and wimpily swinging into a big pull with Army available but DT still on cooldown feels bad, man. SMDH. Once Army and Dark Transformation become available again, you can hold these if you want to, not too long, but you can place your damage where you choose to. Your Army and Dark Transformation window this time looks exactly the same as it did before. You may find that your current rune situation doesn't support pressing all of these buttons in quick succession. That's okay. If you run out of runes, fill with either Necrotic Coil or Graveyard until your buttons become pressable. Just make sure that you don't hit 3 stacks of Putrefy during this window. A quick discussion about Soul Reaper. Outside of the Reaping Soul Reaper given by Dark Transformation, feel free to liberally use Soul Reaper through your Dark Transformation windows. This is great for priority damage in large pulls, though you may opt to use that global for Graveyard and wait to press Soul Reaper until the next charge of Putrefy is ready in a larger AoE pull. Outside of Dark Transformation, you do not press Soul Reaper if it would consume a Putrefy stack, though if it would not, feel free to press it. You may hear the term Soul Reaper tech being thrown around. Specifically, this applies when a mob is in execute range and Soul Reaper is available as you're entering your Dark Transformation window. The tech is, you can press Soul Reaper, and then within the time it takes for the lesser ghoul to spawn and putrefy, which, to be safe, is within 100 milliseconds, you can press Dark Transformation such that your Soul Reaper putrefy lands while the commander of the dead buff is active. So you'll have used your Soul Reaper you had before Dark Transformation, and you'll have the Soul Reaper available Dark Transformation gives you. So now, once the first Soul Reaper debuff expires on your opponent, or is about to expire, you can use the free Soul Reaper recharge to get more Soul Reaper time during your window. Now, this is an optimization. It is a small optimization. It will not significantly change your damage profile. However, that's what that is. The 3 most common errors that are driving down your damage from key to key. 1. Holding Army/Dark Transformation too long, waiting for that one big pull. Every moment you delay these cooldowns risks taking away these cooldowns from the Mythic Plus dungeon overall, which is only so long. 2. Poor Dreadplague or Festering Scythe uptime. This is going to reduce the overall number of putrefies that you have in a given period of time. This is a significant influence in your overall damage. You don't see it happening because you don't have to press any buttons, but this is the engine running in the background that is maintaining and holding your damage nice and high. Number 3, using putrefies outside of Dark Transformation. If you haven't seen my video, Why Unholy DKs Hold Putrefy, check it out. I walk through exactly how every minion interacts with each other and how Putrefy fits into that equation. There you'll see how incredibly important and impactful a Putrefy within Dark Transformation actually is. So if you're in the habit of using Putrefy outside of Dark Transformation in an uncontrolled manner, you will see an overall damage reduction compared to what you would have otherwise been able to accomplish. If you're interested in a dungeon-by-dungeon list of tips and tricks, things I can/should AMS or horse, or what boss abilities I should set countdown timers to so they can be immune, drop by my Discord below. There you'll also find some great macros that I use, as well as pictures of my cat Leche. What do you guys want to see next? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, until next time, Deathlords.